Hello and welcome to He Knows. My name is Chris. I'm your host, and thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, some very interesting developments have been taking place. There was a continuing resolution attempted in Congress. House Republicans were able to shut down a 1,500 plus page pile of garbage bill that was more like an omnibus bill than it was a continuing resolution. Now, the Republicans then put together a modest 125-page bill, and that was able to get passed in the House. However, when that bill got to the Senate, well, of course, old Chucky Schumer, live shot Chucky, don't ever get between live shot Chucky and a camera or you might get hurt. Live shot Chucky decided that he wasn't going to do anything with this continuing resolution or the bill to keep the government running, and he decided that he was going to complain loudly and try and force the House Republicans to pass the original 1,500 plus page bill. So why was that 1,500 plus page bill so important? Well, a lot of it has to do with what we call pork. Inside of our government, they all have their pet projects. They want pork for this, they want pork for that. So when you hear about pork inside of a bill, that means money. And most of the time, that means money for some pet project where some of that money is probably going to get sent back to whoever sponsored whatever particular project in the form of a kickback, which essentially means that money is going to go directly back into whatever Congress critter has been pushing whatever project. There was also, I believe, 60 billion additional American dollars from your tax money slated to go to Ukraine. Another losing proposition. The only thing that was going to cost us was more money, and it was going to cost the Ukrainians more lives. So all of that in an attempt to be able to line the pockets of the kleptocrats. Now, fortunately, in order to get that initial bill stopped, Elon Musk got involved. Now, all Elon Musk did was speak up and just started saying, hey, this is really stupid. We don't think that this should go anywhere. And, given the fact that Elon is going to be in charge of the government efficiency department, it makes a lot of sense that he should start being very involved in this stuff and getting a feel for what these clowns in Congress are doing. So you really, again, have to remember that the more the Democrats scream, the better you are at making them not get what they want. Case in point, Delulu Delora, Congress critter from Connecticut, Miss Delora, is absolutely delusional. If you search her in Google and you find purple hair and ridiculous outfits, you found her. This woman went off the rails saying President Elon Musk. You know what's funny? President Trump hasn't even taken office yet, and they're already thinking that he's in charge. And they're already thinking that his cabinet's in charge. Well, it's just an attempt to obfuscate from what's really going on. And that is that they're trying to get money pushed in to their own pet projects, and so that they can get the money and kickbacks back to themselves. In other news, Trump is reportedly planning to pull out of the WHO on the first day he is put back in office. Now, if you remember, Trump had already pulled out of the World Health Organization back in 2020. And once the Bribham administration reversed that, as soon as they got in, then unfortunately we were pushing money back into that scam, and we were stuck in it again. Well, now Trump is in a similar position. He's going to pull us out of the World Health Organization again, so he says. And I'm also hoping that he has the ability to do something with the World Economic Forum, because these are the clowns that want to make it so that, as Klaus Schwab says, you will own nothing and you will like it. No, Klaus, I'm not interested in your really, really nasty ways. Not interested. No, thank you. No how. Other interesting stuff happening is Biden insiders. People inside the Biden administration are starting to come out and talk about the scary cognitive decline that Biden started undergoing as early as 12 months into his presidency. If he was having severe cognitive decline, which is pretty apparent by watching this clown on video, anytime he was anywhere doing anything on video, whether it was falling up the stairs on Air Force One or not knowing which direction to exit off the stage, which happened dozens of times, it was pretty apparent that his cognitive collapse was near complete. So now that they're starting to come out, they're telling us that it was as early as 12 months into his presidential cycle that this started happening. They did claim 12 to 18 months, but clearly it started to get pretty bad as many as 18 months in. And I really am not sure who it was they were putting up there, because the guy just didn't have all of his faculties. So on to some Miles Guo related stuff. On December 20th, there was an ex parte conference. Now, an ex parte conference is a discussion between one side in a legal case and the judge, to where the other side cannot be a party to this discussion. So in this case, Miles Guo and his defense team requested an ex parte communication with the judge, Ms. Torres, to try and get some issues resolved in this case. Now, nobody really knows what these issues were. The court records that I saw were pretty interesting, though. It started off with everybody announcing who they were, and of course the prosecution gets an opportunity to state its case, and it starts digging a little bit and trying to get any kind of information that they can about what might be going on behind the scenes. Apparently it was billed as a counsel change for Miles. I am not convinced that that is exactly what was going on. What ended up happening, and it's interesting, you can read in the document that I believe is 7 pages long. After about 3 pages, there's a line on the document that says pages 6 through 13 or 19, 6 through 19 are sealed by the court. So what that means is that the only people who absolutely know what was going on is Miles, his defense team, and the judge. So after that 14-page sealed area of the document, of the court record, everybody is allowed back in. The prosecution comes back in, the defense is still there. And they start, the prosecution starts back in trying to dig a little bit. Now, before they had to leave the courtroom, their digging involved, if it's a change of counsel, if it shouldn't be that Mr. Guo can't pay because he's already retained counsel, if he doesn't have a problem paying. So they're trying to, number one, slander him a little bit, it seems, and number two, they're trying to dig a little bit to find out what is going on. I think they were a little concerned and a little scared as to what might be the case. But the only thing that Judge Torres was saying as everybody was gathered back in the room and court proceedings recommenced was that there were a few issues that the judge was going to have to take care of and couldn't do that today. So there's going to be a delay in sentencing, and the prosecution speaks up again and says, Your Honor, there's only two outstanding issues. There's a sentencing submission, apparently, that the defense has to do, and then the sentencing itself. Could it be that we're trying to gain more time so that the new head of the Southern District of New York can take control after January 20th? It's possible. It could be any number of things, but apparently it was important enough that the judge actually said that there are outstanding matters that needed to be addressed by her, and it couldn't happen on that day. So again, the prosecution was attempting to find out if there was going to be a substitution of counsel. They didn't understand how that could be necessary at this point. Now, keep in mind, the prosecution was also claiming that the victims of Miles deserve to have their quote unquote justice. Now we know that the real victims here are the CCP, and since the Chinese Communist Party can't really be a victim in this case on American soil, that this case never should have been brought, because the only people that ever did anything against Miles were, prodded and pushed by the CCP. We know this. What's interesting to me though is that apparently the judge has received a number of victim statements. Now, I know that a lot of pro-Miles people have sent in quote-unquote victim statements, and I know that a lot of us see ourselves as a victim of overstretch and overreach of government, that they never should have brought this case. As a matter of fact, the most egregious charges were Miles was acquitted of, and they're not going forward with that. He can't be tried again because he was absolutely acquitted. And the only thing that he's actually convicted of was some conspiracy charges. And if it boils down to him conspiring against the Chinese Communist Party, he would probably tell you he's very guilty of that, and he would agree, because that's his whole goal with the new federal state of China, is to absolutely dismantle the Chinese Communist Party and give China back to the Chinese people. So everyone kindly remember that the CCP is not the Chinese people. The Chinese people, in many cases, are wonderful people. It's the Chinese Communist Party that is full of these kleptocrats and thugs, and all they care about is power and money and harming others. So we're going to move on to our first video of the night. And this is going to talk a little bit about Sun Li Jun. It's going to talk about Miles and his case to where he was working to get political asylum in America, and some of the challenges that came up with CCP and hacking. And well, let's just listen to Miles in his own words. Go ahead.
见我家人的9月1号就在警告我家人，告诉你啊，不告诉文贵不要去申请政批，那就是中国的什么国家敌人。9月1号他就开始了啊，这是为什么我们当时告诉我们的，我们有2个律师事务所啊，到第3个律师事务所见面说，你只能用手写的文件，你不能用电脑。这是我要聘用你的前提。这个人答应的非常清楚啊，包括连合同都没签，我们交了定金啊，他答应绝不上他的律师事务所电脑，最后他骗了我们，他还是上了电脑了。现在我们反过来看，为什么9月1号到9月7号之间，公安部的孙立军还有安全部就警告我家人，不要让郭文贵去申请政治庇护。到了9月6号的时候，就已经有传说了 说我就有政治庇护了。9月7号我正式公布我获得庇护。同时大家知道，在国内在海内外的网上已经传遍了我所有申请政庇的文件，因为共产党把整个政治庇护的律师事务所给黑了，500多台电脑。这个律师事务所还是美国很多政府机构的代理事务所，所以所有的文件全部偷走，5000多个客户的文件，偷走以后直接打电话找这个律师事务所，说如果你不代理郭文贵这个政治庇护，我现在就把这个电脑给你恢复了，因为他500多个电脑不能恢复。这家事务所叫 Coakley Hill， 在华盛顿川普总统酒店的对面，离白宫1000米。荒唐不荒唐？最后这家事务所就答应了共产党不再代理文贵这个案子。
So why was the CCP so against Miles winning his case for political asylum here in the United States? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. The very moment that Miles wins political asylum and gets that granted, he is well on his way. And of course, it does take some time. It takes a couple of years, as a matter of fact, but he's well on his way to getting his green card and then well on his way to getting citizenship in the United States of America. And then they have absolutely zero reach in order to get him, because Miles is a citizen of the United States of America with all the protections that are supposed to come along with that. But it's very interesting how Miles tried to play the shell game here a little bit because he knows the CCP's watching him. So he went to multiple law firms. He went to one, he went to two, and then he went to a third. And on the condition that they not use their computers in order to work up the documents for his political asylum case, he would use them. He paid the retainer, he got everything going, and then they turned around and they did exactly what he asked them not to do. Rather than do it by hand, rather than get an old typewriter and get somebody who could type and knew what they were doing, they decided to go ahead and take the shortcut and use the computers. So, of course, these Chinese communist hackers hacked in and were able to get as many as 5,000 case files. 5,000 case files, and basically held this law firm hostage. Over 500 computers were hacked. Now, how do you do that? First of all, you've got to get into one of the servers. Well, you've got to get into one computer, and that will then open the door to a server. And once you hit a server, you can spread whatever worm virus you're working with that is going to gather information and pull that back to people who are working for the Chinese Communist Party. So these may be Chinese hackers, they may be professional hackers, it could be anybody, but they are certainly taking payment from the Chinese Communist Party. Now, they gained access to these 500 computers and they found, of course, the files that they were looking for. That's how they were able to disseminate the information on Miles' political asylum case before he was even able to announce his political asylum. It's pretty pathetic when you think about it. Everybody is such a slave, it seems these days, to computers that nobody knows how to do anything. I mean, just think of it this way. Less than 150 years ago, we didn't even have power. We didn't even have indoor running water, none of that stuff. And everybody had to make do. And now we've got all the creature comforts of life. We've got indoor lighting, we've got computers, we've got cameras, we've got the internet, and that is enabled everybody to connect to everybody, even when they don't want to. So our next video tonight is how the CCP came to control America's top lawyers. And it's pretty sickening the way this is working out. What you're going to hear from Miles is a conversation between him and a high-level CCP member. He doesn't give the name of this member because you don't want to burn your sources. If you wind up telling who you're talking to, all of a sudden the information is going to dry up. He certainly didn't want that, because his goal was to tear the CCP down from outside and from within. So let's go ahead and watch this second video, and then we'll talk a little bit about one particular person inside the American justice system. And we'll talk about a couple of other people that we've talked about before that this is going to kind of do a little interesting description on. Let's go ahead and play it.
你去查查美国前100大律师事务所，有哪家在中国没有分所的？这100大事务所所有的办公地点都在哪里啊？国贸、银泰、金融街，几乎90%。然后在上海去看看那几家公司，然后在香港几乎是金融中心，金融1期、2期，长江中心。你去看一看，一个美国国家的90%的最牛事务所，全在共产党的最核心的经济中心、政治中心，完全控制在几个楼里面，相互合作、相互合资。你知道这是什么概念吗？什么叫利益冲突？这些律师回来以后都是美国的检察官、法官，而且这些法官的儿子、女儿、女婿全都是美国的，又是检察官又是法官 ，SEC。哇塞，这个可比中共共产党那个太子党可牛叉啊！共产党现在的问题是没有官4代啊。我曾和某将军说，我说共产党的官4代、官5代是不是还继续啊？他说关键共产党没有官4代啊，是他的问题。而且官4代、官5代都已经在海外私生子女。他说共产党的野心是要统治全世界，我们要通过血缘关系控制全人类。后来我问他，我说那这个美国司法界，公检法就是西方的，你们怎么控制？他说合资合作加联姻呐。我当时以为这个傻叉，你知道吗？当时的这个所谓的，这我不能说他啊，也是一个公检法的牛叉的哥们儿啊。现在我发现他越来越让我感觉这不是开玩笑的。我最近才发现啊，原来这些律师事务所里边很多的女婿、女儿。很多和中国联姻，他爹他妈就是法官、检察官，然后 SEC。你去查查美国前100大律师事务所，有哪家在中国没有分所的？这。
All right, looks like we had a small technical glitch where the video restarted, but I think you get the idea. I know that we have a world economy these days, and I also understand that law firms need to be able to work with each other in order to come to agreements, be able to form contracts. But it's still interesting to me that there's, based on what Miles is telling us, that 90% of America's top law firms, so the top 100 apparently, all have offices inside either Beijing or Shanghai or Hong Kong. I don't understand why that necessarily needs to be that high of a number. It seems very, very suspect to me. What does make a lot of sense, though, is if you think about it, and if you think about what this CCP contact is telling Miles, that the 4th and 5th generations are no more direct descendants of happy couples, so to speak, that they are instead the illegitimate children. Now, a couple can legitimately have, maybe 4, maybe 5 children. In China, back then, we were looking at maybe 1, maybe 2 on the outside, maybe 3. They really started, doing the population control, although I'm sure that the CCP and its kleptocrat members weren't included in that. That was only for, the people, the Chinese people. But if we look at like Wang Qishan, and we know that he's got somewhere between 10 and 20 illegitimate children. If we look at the father of Philip Roessler, we know that his father has the same number of illegitimate children. Same with Joe Low's father. Also, lots and lots of illegitimate children. So, what are they doing? Well, they're having these children be at arm's length so that there's no direct connection to them. But behind the scenes, they're supporting them. They're paying for their education. They're sending them to Europe. They're sending them to America. They're sending them to Australia, sending them all around the world. And they're getting them involved in A, schooling, B, politics, C, law firms. And that's what they're doing, is that they're spreading their illegitimate children throughout the world and getting into sensitive positions so that they, as a CCP, as an organization, can take over the world from within. If we look at what Joe Low tried, Joe Low was attempting to buy influence. Look at Philip Roessler. Philip Roessler was the vice chancellor in Germany, and now he is a leading member in the World Economic Forum. These people are spreading their money, spreading their wealth, spreading influence, and trying to buy influence in order to take control. We're going to bring up one more thing here tonight with respect to who they're getting involved with. I think we have an image of Christopher Wray and his progression through his career. If we have that, can we go ahead and bring that up? Now, what we can see here is that Christopher Wray was working at a law firm named King and Spalding, and at that time he represented Miles Guo, the anti-CCP hero. Shortly after, Christopher Wray gets a heck of a bump in pay because, of course, there's little Wang Qishan. He starts representing H&A and other CCP conglomerates that are under the control of little Wang Qishan. And so what happens next? Well, unfortunately, Christopher Wray is selected to be FBI director. And we all know that March 15th of 2023, 100 FBI agents stormed the Sherry Netherland Hotel and stormed his residence and took Miles and took Yvette Wang into custody, and they have sat there ever since. Come March, it'll now be 2 years. It seems incomprehensible that they were never allowed any kind of bail, never allowed to see the light of day after that. It's just incomprehensible. So this is kind of an example of them working their way in. We've talked about other ways as well. We know that Eric Swalwell, Congress critter from a Democratic Congress critter from California, we know that he was deeply involved with a Chinese spy. We also know that a Democratic senator from California, Dianne Feinstein, had a Chinese spy as a driver for many years. And this keeps going and going and going. I'm sure at some point we're going to hear some very, very bad things about a bunch of Republicans out there as well. We already have been seeing what Dan Crenshaw out of Texas, who is showing himself to be at one heck of a rhino, a Republican in name only. Mitch McConnell, I'm questioning about him too. I think that guy has been crooked for a very long time. We're seeing this all come to pass, and we're all hopeful that when Trump is able to take office again and start weeding these people out, they're already showing themselves. Those that voted for that 1,500-page bill to pay everybody and their brother, we know that those folks probably need to be primaried, probably need to be kicked out of Congress. So we're hopeful. We know who you are. We're going to come after you and get you elected out, or at least we're going to really try hard. Well, folks, that's it for tonight. I just wanted to take a moment and thank you. Thank you for taking apart and listening to what we have to offer here. And this is going to be our last show for the year. We will be back in January with fresh new shows, start talking about hopefully some interesting things that are happening. Hopefully there'll be some updates for Miles, and we're going to continue to help teach where we can about the connections between what Miles is trying to do against the CCP and how the CCP has turned around and done the same thing with some of our Congress people, some of our political leaders here in America. I want to thank you. I want to let you know that our entire team thanks you. Between our video, cutters, our production folks, everybody, we all thank you for offering us your time and listening to what we have to present to you. I hope that it's been beneficial for you. I hope that you have enjoyed what we've been able to provide, and I'm going to sign off and wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and spend some time with your families over the holidays. Hopefully everybody will see you again in the new year. Thank you so much.